Welcome into the Sporting News Studios. We're talking college basketball with our college basketball writers, Mike DeCourcy next to me, Ryan Fagan on the far end. And gentlemen, let's talk about the Atlantic Coast Conference. And I'll just ask you right off the top, how good of a conference is this? I think of it as a basketball conference. It's certainly not a football conference, but compared to some of the other leagues around the country, how good is the ACC?
I think since the expansion in the mid-2000s, the league has fallen apart as a basketball conference, and I think part of it is because they sort of lost their way, lost their identity. And NC State is a program that is trying, at this point, to sort of grab back that identity, and Maryland, I think, will follow along. But for the past 5 or 6 years, it's been Carolina, Duke, Florida State, always a pain for everybody, and then not a whole lot else to talk about.
And it's interesting because if you think about State, Wake, Maryland, Virginia, you know, these are teams that had had success in the past, but it feels like not as much lately for those kind of schools.
It's been a long time, and people are really looking at State this year. You know, it's been forever since they've won an ACC regular season title. It's been forever since they've won an ACC tournament title. This is a team, you know, when C.J. Leslie announced he was coming back, when Rodney Purvis got cleared by the NCAA to play immediately, you know, these were big steps for a team that made a run to the Sweet 16 last year. And now you look at, you know, that success that they've had, and it's been a while. They've got a little success, they've got some talent there, and they've got a coach in Mark Gottfried who's really energized the fan base. You know, he's made a point of reaching out to the former players, guys like Tom Gugliotta, Chris Corciani, bringing them all back to try to recapture some of that tradition.
And right around the corner, we've obviously got Duke and Carolina, and we know Carolina lost a ton of guys. Duke lost Austin Rivers, so how do those schools shape up against State, do you think?
Duke is a team that has a lot of consistency and a very strong roster, but if they're going to be great, Quinn Cook, their sophomore point guard, has to be special. Last year he was banged up in the preseason, banged up on their tour of China, lost a lot of prep time, and it was hard for Duke to, basically hard for them to allow him to catch up. And he never really was able to get in the flow. But I think he's got talent. I think he fits well for what they want to do. I think they put very good players around him, play Duke basketball, and at that point I think they're more consistent and complete than any other team in the ACC.
And Carolina, I mean, point guard seems like it might be a question for them as well.
It is a question, but this year's Carolina team is so much different than last year's. And it's not just the fact that they lost players, but you had Tyler Zeller and Harrison Barnes and John Henson, these 3 established big men, you know, who could play big in the paint. Now all of a sudden they're gone, and you've got the backcourt. The shooting guards is where the strength is. You've got guys like Leslie McDonald is coming back. Reggie Bullock is a guy who I really think is primed to make a big step forward in terms of points and impact this year. You know, Dexter Strickland will be back. You got P.J. Hairston, his numbers from three-point line last year weren't good. But, you know, I saw him at the NCAA Pro-Am this summer. You could see there was a fire in his eyes to get better and to work better that wasn't really around as much last year.
And finally, you know, we talk about Florida State. Obviously, they're a pretty intriguing team. Are there other teams, another team maybe, that you could see making a run and opening some people's eyes this year?
Well, I'm gonna steal Miami off of you because I know you. Miami is the team that it's sort of one of those teams that it's like an indie movie, you know, or a new band. Everybody's kind of like they're the cool kids. They have a chance to be very good, and they've got a great coach in Jim Larinaga. They've got an excellent backcourt. They've got some size up front. Right. So they have all the components. Last year, I think it was a little bit more developmental, and they had some injuries. But I do think Miami could make an impact and even steal one of the top 3 spots if they played well.
Anybody else? Any other Cinderellas from you?
You know, I don't think we can. I don't know that I call him a Cinderella, but we can't go without talking about Michael Snare from Florida State. You know, he's one of the best players in the conference easily. You know, he hit some huge shots. You know, I remember the one, you know, last second shot against Duke to get a win at Cameron. You know, these are the types of big shots and big plays that he's capable of producing. And then, you know, Leonard Hamilton teams are just horrible to face on the road, and really at any time, because they get after you so much defensively. They can throw you off your game, you know, and they win games in Tallahassee with middling talent rosters. You know, now that they have, you know, a lot of talent down there, they're going to be a tough team.
All right, there you go. Our look at the ACC. We'll see what happens this season. For Ryan Fagan and Mike DeCourcy, I'm Tom Vandervoort. Thanks for watching.